It's funny because Sonny was pissing me off a couple years ago. I redid the intro, and it was like 25 seconds long. And I sent it to him. He'd be like, "It's too long. Make it shorter." And like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, he made a mistake to ask me, "What do you think?" Are you sure you want to know?
Well, it's crazy because like I was doing it on an iPad. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just playing, and things were working out. And I was like, "Oh, it's 25 seconds. That's not bad." And I sent it to Sonny. He's like, "Too long." And so 19 seconds, send it back to Sonny. It's too long. I think I got it down to 9. So I think it's at 9 seconds now, which, and in hindsight, I go, oh, that's pretty good. Like, I'll tell Sonny that was the dumbest thing I ever did listening to him. But when Sonny's not around, I'm like, that's pretty smart. But it's funny because, like, he says that. I've got about 5 guys that I don't ask them their opinion unless I really want it. And like, there's things where like, even after I got it down to 9 seconds, I send it to the 5 guys. And they're the guys that are going to tell me, dude, that sucks. You know, and they'll mean it, right? They're not going to go, I like it. They're going to go, it sounds weird, or it sounds like this, or it's too long. And it's funny because like, I don't go to them for a lot of things because I like being happy, right?
Don't rain on my parade.
If I go to these 5, I'm like, But there's times where it's like, I feel very thankful that I have them because when I gotta know, I'll ask one of these 5.
You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
Fellas, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
Sonny, you brought a friend.
I did. It's bring your friend thing.
Bring your friend in.
Yeah. Bring your friend in.
Nigel Fischer, last time I had Sonny on, we were talking, and Sonny's kind of heading into some uncharted waters, you know?
He is. Yeah.
And he talked about the process and what he's looking to do, and then he mentioned you, how you've been helpful and in your executive coaching, and I just wanted to ask you a few questions and see what you got going on, man.
Right on.
You know, what have you been able to talk to Sonny about now that he's here? Let's pretend that he's not.
Pretend I'm not here.
What was that about? How did y'all meet, first of all? But then after that, how did you get into, lending a hand to Sonny?
Oh, yeah. So, I think it was really just a cool friendship that materialized pretty organically.
Was it at a bar?
Turned into, no, not at a bar. Maybe it should have been. I don't know. But, we met through a songwriters retreat.
Oh,
and
cool.
I was doing some work in nonprofit that was music related, helping veterans through using the guitar as kind of a therapeutic outlet. I'm a guitar practicer. I wouldn't call myself a musician.
Well, you know enough to get invited to the cookout. So
yeah, well, I got to go to meet some really cool people like Sonny, and something really struck me about him when we met because there were a lot of people there. And
it's the really good smelling beard oil.
I think so. That must have been the power beard. That's what drew me in.
It's called, it got me.
Pheromones. It's the pheromones.
Strong.
Secret weapon.
Strong pheromones.
Yeah. No, but we, I think we just really hit it off because we were just 2 dudes that weren't there about anything other than being just ourselves. We weren't trying to be anybody different. Not saying that anyone else there was different from that in their core, but there was just something really raw in that way, but in a good way. It was just very positive, I guess is the best way I would put it. And that's something that I really like to try to focus on most in life. Been through a lot of wild things, which we probably don't have time for today.
Because give people a little background because you've got a long background. You don't have to get into it too deep, but you're in the military and some other things.
Yeah. I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. And so I got to have a lot of really neat experiences that were really an honor and a privilege to be able to be entrusted with the types of roles that I was able to earn through my service in the Marine Corps. I started out at 17. I enlisted as soon as I graduated high school, and I had this dream of being a fighter pilot. Oh, and people are like, but wait, why'd you go in the Marine Corps if you wanted to be a fighter pilot? And it was, late in high school, I just really wanted something that was going to be extremely challenging in a way that was the best I could see in the world as like that utmost challenge, right? Like the Marine Corps is, revered for being super challenging, and it's no cakewalk. And you probably remember the old posters. It's like the drill instructor yelling in somebody's face, and there's spit you can see in the
calling you maggot.
Yeah, exactly. And they go, "Hey, we never promised you a rose garden."
Yeah.
And I grew up. My mom was a cop. My dad was a cop. My stepmom was a cop. So we had a lot of hardcore standards and rules in the house. And so I was used to that order and discipline. But I think more importantly, and before we started, you were sharing some things about how you were raised, and I think that sticks with us and really ingrains those core values. And to me, that was work hard, contribute to the world. And so when Sonny and I met, and totally different backgrounds in terms of how we spent most of our adult life at the moment that we met. And here this guy's, the super accomplished, Grammy Award winner and everything, and just a humble dude. Well, and so I was like blown away. Yeah. I think, the Sonny that you get to see when you know him personally.
When you called Sonny humble, that I got that feeling when somebody says, "Are you losing weight?" And I know that I'm not. I'm like, no.
That's pretty messed up.
I'm joking.
No, but so we got to know each other a little bit through that, and he was asking me, so tell me about you. And I go, started telling him the story about the Marine Corps and everything, and he was telling me about family members and how much he appreciated folks that sacrificed in that way. And I think the thing that we really enjoyed was we all have a different role in this world. And so it's not like anybody is better than anyone else. It's just we all have our own journey.
Sure.
And so just learning about each other, we got to know each other more and more over time. And what we were focused on in the moment is both having a passion for serving. And that's kind of, for me, it came from service in the military, but then what do you do when you retire? And I just have that servant's heart. I think, it's wanting to do for others with, whatever God's given me is I owe that to others. That's how I feel. And I could tell that he felt the same way through his music is let me do something good in this world with this talent. And hearing his story of, being successful from an early age and where that, ended up leading later in life, that was such a cool thing to hear his journey in the same way. But it was driven from that same sense of, it's a passion, but it still goes back to, what can I do to make other people happy, bring joy in their lives and everything. So I don't know. Did I miss anything in there?
I don't think you did. I mean, it kind of it progressed, right? I just remember this guy, kind of real chill. We were songwriting, and I kept seeing this guy walk. He's like, "Who's this guy?" Very quiet, didn't talk to many people. Hey, who is this guy? And finally one day, I just finally had the right opportunity. I said, I'm going to talk to this guy. I didn't even know. I just said, hey, I'm Sonny. And I didn't get to say hi to you. I just, are you a songwriter? And we just kind of started talking. And like anytime I meet somebody in the military or, like the Marines, I always wanted to be a Marine, right? They didn't have short, fat accordion players in the Marines. So I didn't qualify. But I admire the Marine. I used to even wear a high and tight. So anytime I get to talk to a Marine, I'm excited. Tell me, how was it? Or, and it's those things. And we kept talking, kept in touch. Like Nigel said, just kind of meeting people from different backgrounds, and you have like a commonality, right? Oh yeah, this, and I had no idea, right? Because you just don't know who you're talking to, and that's why I always believe in, I say hi to the owner of the place, and I say hi to the cleaning lady, because you just don't know who you're talking to, right? Yeah. Little did I know that there was this killing machine sitting right there, like in front of me, like he could kill me with this pinky, with this secret Marine move or something. And we're just having a great conversation, and we just kept in touch, really.
Yeah.
And that's how it kind of started. Kept in touch, and after that, it turned into more, right? Because that's when I was working with Folk Life, and that's how kind of I mean, I'm gonna let him talk about that part of Uncharted, but how that whole thing started. But it was just really cool to hang out, and really, and it's funny because we, as far as music went, the one thing we did have in common is that we, love music, and we served through music, and he served veterans through music, right? He was like a conduit for music, therapy and veterans, and so that was kind of interesting to know. I had no idea, and so we had it. That was kind of something that linked us together.
When did y'all eventually when did you realize that there was a? Is that me? Mm-hmm. Oops.
I thought you just had the jam.
I was like, oh, he has
I could have sworn I turned it off.
just okay. I was like, oh, okay.
We should. You want to finish that song? When did you realize that there was a service that you provided that Sonny might be able to benefit from? How long in talking, and what kind of drew that to the forefront?
I don't think he didn't know that. I told him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because when I joined Folk Life, Texas Folk Life, I made it a point to surround myself with people who I thought would be a great influence, right? And in talking to Nigel, I knew his background, and we had a long talk. We actually had a few talks. And then I knew his background in corporate America, background in the Marines, background in nonprofit. I said, I'm going to keep him on my list of people to keep in touch with. And so that's how we kept in touch. And I said, hey, and I think I caught you at the right time, right? It's the story of my life. At the right place at the right time. I said, hey, I'm serving in this new role. These things are happening. Can you just kind of give me some, put some guardrails up, and I want to make sure that I'm on the right track. Right?
Well, you know what that is, and it's funny because I feel like the majority of the podcasts I do, the word mentorship keeps popping up, and it's like, when I was a kid, everything that I needed to know, my dad would teach me, right? And as I got older, I was like, I don't need a mentor. I was and we talked about that earlier. I think I'm the man everywhere I go, right? And so, but as I've gotten older, and I talk to people, and I see people that are successful, and whatever success looks like, sometimes it's a temporary success, sometimes it's long term, sometimes it's reoccurring success. There's always somebody that's been there that they're learning from.
Yes,
and it's like, we take that for granted, and mentorship is huge, man. It is.
It is, and we had those talks, and I kept telling Nigel, you're so smart, you're so brilliant, you have a great mind, and I said you should consider being like a life coach or like an executive coach, and I said you would do really good. I mean, that's just me, because we were having these conversations, and I think you were taking a break, right? And I was like, this is perfect. I'm kind of free. I said, well, I want to book you once a week or every other week. If you have a time, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you have time for, I'm glad that I can have it. So I would schedule it in.
Oh, yeah.
And I think even times where I was in Dallas, hey, I would sit down and, all right, let's have our talk. I'm sorry I'm running behind, but let's have a talk. This is what's happening right now. What do you think? Well, am I on the right track? Yes. Or, well, and I love his approach. And it comes from a compassion side, right? It's not, you need to do this, blah, blah, blah. There's no maggots involved in his talks. There's no, you maggot. It's always like, well, I'm not telling you what to do. This is unsolicited. And at first I would tell him, why do you say that? But then I was like, oh, I get it. Okay. But you're building that trust with that person, because I feel that people want to be told what to do, but when they're told what to do, then there's
some resistance.
No, wait a minute. Yeah. But when you approach it that way, and it's like, well, I'm not telling you what to do, but this is what I've done. This is what I've lived through. And then I listen. Okay. And so it was a great approach. And I just kept telling him over and over, dude, you need to do this. You need to do something here. Because I feel you have something to give to anybody in any kind of business. It doesn't even have to be what we call, and now that I think about business, corporate America, arts, music, anything, really, just any kind of mentorship. Because somebody I love your mission. There's a part of your mission statement, from the battlefield to the boardroom.
Yes.
Oh, man, who can say that? I can't say that.
Nigel.
Yeah.
Nigel can say, I can't say that. I can't say that. So when you say from the battlefield to the boardroom, Man, that is powerful, right? You think about that. Somebody who has served their country, somebody who served in corporate America, who served the nonprofit world, and it's just all these different angles. And it just, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. So I'm over here with the big cheerleader. I'm like, Nigel Fischer.
Yeah, no,
and that's how it started.
Yeah,
Like,
no, it
you know
really
what,
did.
You know what's interesting is like when I'm watching Sonny talk about it, you know, sometimes I sit there and go, how do you, with somebody like Sonny where it's like, hey, I got 15 minutes, right, before I got to go to my next thing, you know, and you want to provide substance in that 15 minutes. But at the same time, it's kind of like, Sonny, you know Sonny better than anybody else in the room, right? So it's kind of like, it sounds like maybe there might be an approach there where it's kind of, it's maybe a little broad. Like you said, you don't want to, you know, dictate your next move, but it's another way to look at things. And what's funny, and I'm guilty of this too, is I find myself not seeing the forest for the trees, right? And sometimes you need somebody to just go, hey man, here's a different perspective. And if you're open to it, if you're the type of person that's open to a different perspective, you can see so much more than you could before. So
you really can. And I think that's the game changer for all of us. And it's not, while I think I have honed the ability to do that more than a lot of people have through a lot of those crazy experiences and in a variety of different environments. And so I've learned that the skills needed are universally applicable, as Sonny was starting to say, is it's more about how do I approach decision making and what matters to the people that I'm working with. And like in the case of Sonny, and you mentioned it, a very short amount of time. There were times where he'd be like, hey man, you got like 5 minutes? Can I ask you something? And I'd be like, yeah, I got 5 minutes, man. Let's, you know, we jump on a call. And he'd be like, all right, so here's what's happening. And, you know, here's what's kind of tripping me up on this. And where do you think I should go from here? And instead of me saying, oh, you should do, I try to always avoid that. Try. And always is probably not completely accurate, but I check myself pretty vigorously in that way of reverting to a place of wanting to be curious about what that person's experiencing and what their options are that they can see in front of them. And then if I go, okay, have you considered this? And then Sonny goes, well, yeah, but this thing stands in the way of that being successful. Okay. Have you considered this? And he goes, well, I don't know that I have. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment then. Because if you haven't considered it, it could be an option that I see may be possible, but you need to fill in some blanks as to whether you think it's actually going to be possible. So that's where the questions come in. And I think it's the skill that I have gained over time through all of, you know, these life experiences and challenging roles and unique problem solving around the world, is just the ability to think of the right questions that will help unlock the ability to see through that smoke, kind of, so to speak. You know, it's like, what was that movie, Days of Thunder? And it was like, you know, the driver's been in this big car wreck, and so he's like really scared about anytime there's a wreck. You know, he doesn't want to drive through that because something bad's going to happen in his mind. But what the guy that's, you know, working with him, coaching him on his team and everything to make him successful ultimately in the movie, it was like Tom Cruise, right? I think. Yeah. You know, just gets him to understand that sometimes the best bet is don't put on the brakes, like jam on the gas and take a line, because the faster you get out of that fray, the less likely you are to get caught up in it. And so that's kind of the approach I like to take is, hey, let's not worry so much about all this chaos that's happening. Let's see what's on the other side and figure out the fastest path to get there. So that's what we've done together, I think.
Let me ask you this. I've heard people say, and he was a military guy as well, he kind of taught this to me, but I've heard other people say it, where an 80% decision is still a good choice to make, right? Maybe it's
I agree.
Maybe just going off of 80% is good. But sometimes, and this is something that I don't tell very many people, because then my sister's like, you're lazy. And 'cause she does that all the time. But sometimes I feel, and you can tell me your opinion on it, sometimes I feel like no decision is a bad decision, but sometimes I also feel like let me wait and see what clears up. There's been times where in the industry that I'm in where I want to make a decision and I want to make a move and I want to do it right now because there's so many problems on the table and I'm trying to knock out problems. But then there's been times where I'm like, you know what? Let me let this sit. Let me let it sit a day. Let me let it sit till after lunch. And amazingly, sometimes my problems sort themselves out.
They do.
Or I didn't realize it, but maybe somebody on the other end, somebody else on another portion of the design team already has that answer. And if I just pause for a minute, like the Days of Thunder, right? We can either go up to the top of the wall and hit the gas. But in my mind, sometimes I'm like, let me hit the brakes and let all these cars clear out and smoke clear. When is there a time for that and when there's a time for the other? Or is one a bad idea?
It's one of those military answers that you go back to and people go, well, it depends. And I think that's true. I believe that some patience goes a long way. I really do.
Oh, I hate patience, but I agree.
It's hard. It's hard. And I think I also am an impatient person. And I like to just hurry up, let's get done with it so that this problem goes away and I can move on to the next thing. I have found moments where just a slight intentional pause to wait for more information can be very effective. I like to use that time to educate myself and prepare for what may come next. And so while it's a pause, I find a lot of comfort in doing things that I know will aid me in a better understanding of what I believe I'm seeing. Because sometimes, and we experienced this together, there were times where there was some urgency that was maybe self-created to a degree, right? Where we feel figuratively, and I think we even use these words, it feels like there's a gun to your head.
Yeah.
Like you have to make a decision. If you don't make a decision, somebody's going to pull this trigger. And the question I would ask in those moments, I'd go, Sonny, wait, is there a gun to your head in this moment? What happens if you wait? And what happens if you follow up with some questions to understand better what you believe is happening, but understand truly whether it is or isn't happening in the way that you think?
Well, I guess there's a sense of understanding how critical it is to have an answer right now. So maybe recognizing the issue at hand and how critical it is to answer it.
Certainly.
So if there's something that's a huge fire that really needs to get answered, well, then that's maybe where the 80% hitting the gas and going through the top of the wall comes in. And if there's something that's less critical, maybe that's a time for, it almost sounds like a productive pause, right? We're not just pausing and not doing anything. We're pausing and maybe reevaluating a little bit.
Certainly. And that's something I learned in warfare. So leading Marines in combat, that's one of those times where there are very specific opportunities where the only answer is we have to do something right now. So even if it's a flawed plan, an imperfect plan, it hasn't been rehearsed and extremely well thought out, but we all agree that this is probably good enough right now. We had this phrase that we would use for those moments, and it was a partially ideal plan is going to be more successful when executed with violence of action. So in other words, get behind it wholeheartedly. No matter whether you think it's going to be successful or not, if you just approach it like it's going to be and you execute that plan rapidly and with everything you've got, chances are you're going to make your own luck in that moment. Because you don't have the luxury of time when bullets are flying and maybe people's lives are at stake. When all of that dies down, though, what do people immediately do in combat? They start assessing. How much more ammunition do we have? Where's the closest place that we can go to potentially link up with another portion of a force so we can gain greater numbers? Can we get those reinforcements? And immediately, every second of pause is used with intention. And so when you get good at using what seems like a pause in a very meaningful way, I think it's good for your mindset because you feel like you're doing something towards a productive outcome instead of just waiting. And that one's me. And it's going to go away in a second.
That's all right. Well, what's funny is and I even told Sonny on the last podcast we recorded, I feel like, I feel like I'm a good person, but but I got a ton of negative traits. And it's funny because like I feel like the majority of my life I've retarded my growth because I would talk myself. I could sit in the living room and I want to do this, and I get an idea and I think of all the negative things that could come from it, and I go, it's not worth it. Let me stay where I'm at.
Sure.
And even like with the career, we talked about that earlier. It's kind of one of those things where I like to stick with the devil I know. And it's like that doesn't. Sometimes I feel like I haven't allowed myself to be where I should be, because I feel, and this is another negative trait, like I enjoy a struggle, right? I used to always say, I don't care what job you give me, I want the worst job we have here. Because I want to be able to say, hey, if I can do that, I can do everything else we do here. That was my mentality, and I think that came from Dad somewhat. But at the same time, it was kind of like, I get so comfortable with not being where I think I should be. And sometimes I sit there and go, man, if I would allow myself to explore, if I would allow myself to pursue. I had a conversation with people a couple weeks ago, and this is embarrassing to say because I'm almost 50. But I said, I've never pursued a goal. I've never pursued a dream. I've always taken what nobody else wanted to do, and I took that and made it mine. And even with what I do now, like when I started doing plumbing design, an engineer called me and said, hey, nobody here wants to do plumbing design. You want to do it? I said, yeah. And it was the mentality, and again, that was from Dad, where it was like, hey, your job's important, keep it, do whatever you got to do. So if it was the guy that cleaned the toilets, if it was the guy that did the job nobody wanted to do, that's what I would do. And it was interesting because now at 50, I'm sitting there going, I've never pursued a goal. And I look at Sonny, and Sonny's career and the things he gets into and how he's so open to pursuing other things. And I'm sure he has anxiety about things at times, but he's so open to pursuing things. And I'm so afraid to. Like, I'm okay here because I'm used to, arguing at work or being uncomfortable or not making enough money or being miserable. You know what I'm saying? All those things are things that I go, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
My mentality toward a lot of things is like, I like to find the worst outcome that could happen from this thing. And if I'm okay with that happening to me, I'll stay put, but I never go. Sometimes I feel if I pursued something that I really cared about, I would be less stressed. I'd be more enthusiastic, We're talking earlier, it's like all I do is work. I wake up, I work till I fall asleep. And I'm so busy that I don't even think about what I don't have, or I don't even think about, what I could be pursuing because I'm full, right? I'm full of things that I don't really want, but I'm full, And so being able to talk to somebody, have a mentor, have somebody say, hey man, why don't you adjust here a little bit? And before you know it, you might find yourself on the cusp of something new. That kind of stuff scares me though.
Yeah, well, and it can be scary for a lot of people, really. And I don't think that that's uncommon. We find things that are our comfort zone, even if they are uncomfortable. It's where we're happy because we know the limits of that discomfort.
Right.
And when we put ourselves out there in a way that is maybe beyond into kind of that unknown discomfort or that unknown risk or uncertainty realm, because, we've gotten good at knowing where the challenges are going to come from, where the struggles are going to come from, and we're okay with that. But what happens if it's something that maybe I'm not prepared to address? And that's where, when we were talking about Sonny being, kind of the biggest fan, the person that encouraged me was, he goes, hey, you've got something here that you can use to help people. And I go, well, sure, but I want to be retired, and I'm kind of thinking about just enjoying retirement, seeing what that looks like, doing volunteer work, and being satisfied with that. And he goes, no, I think you really need to get out there. And I started thinking about it, and I go, well, how hard can it really be? Because it's really what we were doing together.
Nigel said he does have 3 Grammys.
I'm like, me and my annoying optimism. I'm the annoying happy guy.
Yeah.
Like, you should do that.
You should not be comfortable at home. Come on.
Retirement's retirement, whatever.
But, I got comfortable in the thought of I've led this crazy life that's been full of extremes, traveling around the world, living in foreign countries, in a lot of them not super hospitable, where there was a lot of risk to my own safety, and through the course of that, it can get really exhausting, and so you get to a place and you're like, I just want to slow down, I want to be comfortable. But as we were talking about, I go, I've shared with people that I think there is the ability for us, if we're disciplined and we approach life with a certain focus, and that is we can achieve a balance of doing the things that are of service to others, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, but putting in some boundaries. And that's something that I think we spend a decent amount of time on, where it's been mutual support in that regard of, hey, where are the limits, right? I don't have to just open the floodgates and go, okay, I am going to start the business. And what do I want it to be, though? And really, I think that's where goals, priorities and goals come in for what I do. And what I help other people do is help them understand what is it that they really want. And we kind of were chatting about this a little bit earlier, as there are people that go, hey, I want to start a business, and I just have always wanted to do this thing. Okay, that's great, but that's not really a goal. Where do you want to be in terms of what are your priorities in life, and what do you want to receive in return for all that you're doing? Yeah, you want to make a thing. You want to do a thing. Maybe it's music. Maybe you want to achieve a certain thing through music. But what do you ultimately want? And what I think a lot of us want is a much more balanced lifestyle. It's not just the sake of, do I want to win a Grammy? I think that's an awesome thing to be able to do, is demonstrate exceptional work that brings that much joy to other people, that everyone around goes, that guy is so great, we need to give him an award because that was magic. Amazing to achieve. But if we find ourselves chasing it just for the sake of having the thing, we lose the meaning of the thing. It's, no, I worked really hard at this and I am really good at this. And as a result, I got recognized for it. Not, I just always wanted to have that thing and be able to say, I got that thing. So that's where, when we take it back to a business or something, it's, well, I just always wanted to own a business so I could be my own boss. Well, that's cool. You are your own boss, and your boss told you that you're going to be working 7 days a week for the next 3 years. Is that what you really wanted?
Did you talk to my boss?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it can be interesting as we dig into all of that whole topic, which, I don't know that we need to explore every nuanced aspect of it, but really what we found, I think, through our conversations was a lot of balancing priorities and understanding deeply, me within myself, even through the conversations that we had, of what was it that I really wanted. I wanted that purpose. I wanted to be able to help others with the skills that I had so that they could achieve their purpose and do it as best as possible. So,
well, I think part of like my addiction to not chasing a dream is I enjoy being productive and helpful. Like, I think I'm addicted to that. Even when it's a crap thing that happens. You were in the military. I mean, you lived that. But you know what it's like when you sit there and you go through the worst thing you've been through, and you get out on the other side and you go, man, wasn't that bad? That felt good. The accomplishment, the camaraderie that you built. But I think that's what I enjoy. I enjoy being productive and feeling useful, And I think I'm always concerned that if I try something new, I'm not going to be as productive. I may not be useful. And now I just wasted 3 years pursuing something when I should have just stayed where I was. Like, that's where my brain works. But let me ask you this. What is something people need to recognize in themselves or in their thought processes where they can say, hey, this is no longer just a hobby. This is something that I might be able to pursue to provide for my family. And when are people being naive and deceiving themselves and saying, hey, because everybody's going to tell you, hey, you're doing really good. You know, you're always going to be mom's favorite, right? Mom, mijo's amazing. You know, there's your people around you. Man, whether it's music, you play really good, or you make really good cupcakes. You should sell these. You know, a lot of times I feel like people are giving praise, and that's great. But at what point is that going to translate into sales? Is that going to translate into people hiring for gigs? You know, what do people need to be looking for when they're pursuing something more than just a hobby? And when does it need to just stay a hobby?
That is a really good question, and it can be hard to answer because I think that there are a lot of people that start businesses and they think they want it to be really big, but really what they wanted to do is spend more time on a hobby. And when does it become something that's worthwhile? And I think there's a few things that can be indicators, and it is those unbiased perspectives that we can find around us. And that is folks that aren't our direct friends and family. And we can share ideas with people that maybe have been successful in a way that is similar to ours, maybe not competitors, but people that they have certainly lived that journey already. And we can seek them out and find counsel in them. And you were talking about mentorship, and that's where I think it becomes a mentor type of person, or it can be in the type of work that I do, is it's somebody that goes, hey, I can look at your plans and tell you whether you have enough here to be successful or not, most likely. There's no guarantees. But the things that someone might look at is there a need for what it is that you want to do? And maybe that need is unknown. Maybe it's something unique. It could be completely novel and something that we really don't know. And so that's where just a little bit of meaningful time spent gathering information about the world around us from those unbiased people, those people that would be our consumers. And so we go to where people might be. And I can give you an example that maybe isn't a great one, but if I said, I think I can raise the best chickens and people are just going to love these eggs. They're going to be unlike anything else that you could buy at, the grocery store or something like that. All right, well, where do I go to get feedback on those eggs and whether they're worth anything? I might go to a farmer's market, and surely there are other people with eggs there. And so maybe I got to undercut the price a little bit and sell mine for a little bit cheaper just to get those out and into people's hands. And I say, hey, what I'd really love from you is just some direct feedback. Here's a QR code, scan this. Please share with me what you thought about these eggs. And it's not even a marketing ploy or anything. It's just, I'm going to get information from them. Hopefully, if I can get 2-3 people to tell me what they thought, then now I know where I stand among those competitors. And now it's starting to inform how I will proceed with marketing, where I go, okay, I think mine are the best, but I need to be able to tell people why. And they need to believe it. Not just, oh, these are, the most delicious eggs. Okay, that's great. But how is it different? And they go, well, here's what I loved. I love that I could tell your eggs were authentic because they were all different sizes, and the carton, you had a cool logo on there, so that was fun too, right? It's catchy, but they see that, okay, there's something real about this. All right, where's the story behind it? And so now I begin telling my story about, hey, I just, my passion is I want to make sure you get really great eggs. And so I start working on those people that are fans of really great eggs. Not the most complex example, but it's something that I can do to get myself out there, and that's in the hobby phase. Then once I get enough feedback, I start focusing on, can I recreate this at scale enough for it to become a business? And that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up, is they go, well, I'm really good at doing this thing, but they don't understand that once they start to make it and people really have a demand for what it is that they are producing, whether it's artistic things, whether it's a widget, something that they're actually making physically to be able to sell, or music, is it something I can sustain and repeat? And once I start making it bigger and bigger, am I going to be able to do that? And what does that look like? And those are the deeper business details that really will differentiate whether it's going to be able to be successful. And
I'm sorry. I wanted to say this before I forget, but you mentioned, talking to a competitor, and it's funny because I feel like people are so worried about talking to their competition and maybe seeking advice, but if you can do it in a genuine way, and your competitor can see that you're coming from a good place, that is some of the probably best place to get advice.
It is.
The buddy of mine that owns this place, he's a home builder, and he used to work for a big outfit out east. And one day he kind of threw in his head he might want to do his own thing eventually. So he went and got his contractor license that gets registered with the state. And his employer saw it and said, "Hey, what are you doing? I see you got your contractor license." And my buddy said, "Well, I'm not there yet, but at some point I'd love to go out on my own." And it was interesting because the guy told him, "Well, I can't keep you here. I've got to let you go." He said, "But here's some small houses that we're not going to take on, and you can have them." Gave him his first 2 or 3 houses to build. And it's interesting because, man, a lot of people, I think, shy away from that conversation with a competitor.
They do.
But it's like, if you can have the guts to do it and they're a genuine person, it's the best place to get some advice from.
It really is. Those people are likely going to be the most honest with you because they've seen what it takes, and they will recognize that glimmer in your eye when you're like, "Oh, and this is my thing. This is what I'm going to do." And they're like, "That's great, but it's not necessarily what you think it is.
Yeah.
And here's why." And when they go, "Hey, good luck, but here's where all those landmines are that you're going to step on along the way," figuratively. And so they can give you valuable information, even if they're trying to discourage you. That's one of those pivotal moments where you go, "You know what? That isn't daunting to me. I know it's going to be a rough road. And all the things that you just shared just sound like the cost of doing business. I'm not worried about that." Now, the best place to be is to start solving those problems with real actions. So how am I going to overcome that? And we've seen cool success stories that movies are made about, and it's like, if you build it, they will come, and there's just this dream, and that's great. And there are people that make it big, but the vast majority of people that think like that are not the people that are going out and being successful. The people that are going out and being successful have a very strong drive and high work ethic. Mm-hmm. They tend to be detail oriented, and they tend to be undaunted by those naysayers, those voices that are going to tell them you can't do that. And if anything, they turn that into fuel because they go, "Oh, watch me. Mm-hmm. All right, challenge accepted. It's go time. I am going to figure out how to do this better than you did it because I can see you took this route, but I think there's a different way." And then go ask them about it, like you said. And most people, I think they value, and whether they're for you or against you, they're going to be very honest. And, there's folks around us all the time that are like, "Oh yeah, you're going to do so great." And you're like, "Man, I wish you would just told me this is a terrible idea." Like, do you really love me?
They're lucky they have a great mentor, or not an employer or somebody who supports them, right? And I think that's important. The perfect situation would be that one. Not the home building, but I always tell my guys. I mean, I always encourage them. The things that we're doing here with the band, how to run the band. I want everybody to know how to do this, so that when you have your own band, you know how to do it. And so I know it sounds like we're always in class, but I'm teaching you how to do this so that, number one, I don't have to do it anymore. So I can just show up and be a diva, and they can run the rehearsals, they can run the band. But when they have their own thing, they know how to do it, right? And I've always believed in that because, I mean, there's a saying in Spanish, and I've said it to you before. It's that, para todos sale el sol. The sun rises for everybody, And, the guy that gave him 3 houses, most people live in a scarcity mindset, right? Like, oh, you're going to go into business. Oh, well, this is mine. I said, look, there's enough for everybody to go around. Sure. And if you're that good, they're not going to want to come to me if you're that good. Mm-hmm. If you're that good. But if you're not, you're going to be scared. But I mean, some of my best mentors told me, like Steve Jordan, one of the greatest accordion players of all time. He tells me, you can't compete with me. And I was so cocky back then. And I was like, I'm not scared of you. He says, no, Sonny, I don't mean like that. I mean, you do what you do and I do what I do. And he put me in my place. I was like, oh, okay. But, and that's what I mean. It's like everybody has their time to shine. It can't be sunny every day. Well, it can't be sunny every day. It's raining tonight. But you know what I mean? It can't be about me every day. So everybody has their time to shine. Maybe there's, I always say, today me, tomorrow you, right? So, and it's me and Nigel always talk about how iron sharpens iron, right? So it's always, I think that the approach that Nigel always has is that you always need somebody that's kind of overview watching, has the overview viewpoint, right? To see what you're doing and how, because it's always hard. Like you're always on the grind. It's hard to see when you're in the grind what's really happening, and you need somebody else's eyes to say, oh, well, I see you're doing all these different things, but wait, hold on, time out, hold on. So I said all that to say that. If they're lucky, but I think Nigel's right on point with everything he said. And then you want me to buy? I want to buy eggs now. Are you selling eggs?
I am.
I'm a little hungry.
I got like a gazillion chickens now, but it's not business. And
oh, you're Mexican?
Yeah, I know. I mean, you can't tell.
Roosters?
What's funny is I got a buddy named Sergio, and Sergio's last name's Guerrero, and it's funny because he's got a son named Nigel, Byron, and Seth. And it's funny because I'm like, how come you give them white names? You got a hardcore Mexican last name. Because by the time they realize they're Guerrero, it's too late. They already got their foot in the door.
That's right. Nigel Guerrero. There you go.
But let me ask you, and Sonny can lend to this too. We talked earlier about like somebody who makes cupcakes, somebody who's a musician, somebody who makes art. It's this passion that like I really enjoy doing this thing. And this podcast, for example, I used to love doing it. Now I fucking hate it.
I hate it.
Because it turned into a job, right?
Sure.
All of a sudden it was like, okay, well, I introduced video, now I've got to edit it, and I've got to get other software. I got to figure out the software. It turned into something, but my OCD and my love for pain is like, keep going. When's the next one? Let's do another one.
Well, that's why I told you. I said, well, you need to meet Nigel because Nigel used to be business development. So he could help you bring in so that this could be what you do all the time.
I love this.
Well, but you can set it up to where
this
you're
it'd be
this
nice
is your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's your thing, though. I mean, that's what you do. That's your 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
That's what I always say. But again, I'm Nigel's biggest cheerleader, so that's why I said you need to meet Nigel because he can probably help you with those things.
He literally did.
And
say
that I literally said that.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. It's like in sports, right? I mean, the quarterback has his own coach. The linemen have their own coach. In business, you need your own coach.
Sure.
So why would you want to do business without a coach?
That's true.
Why would you just want to go out there and let me see what I can do? Yeah. Wouldn't you want to have somebody with experience? Somebody who's lived in corporate America, who has that, just broad overview of what has happened, what can happen, to kind of watch you for your blind spots. So again, like anything else you do, if you're in sports, if you're in band, you have a band director. So why would you want to do business without somebody kind of making sure, hey, get back in the lines? Yeah. And so it's important.
No, I think it really is. And I think we all need that. I need that too. I still have people that I go to, and Sonny's one of them. So as much as there are things that I think I've been able to add to Sonny's perspective through our conversations, he's done the same for me in return in many ways, not with deliberate roles and responsibilities that we like lined out in our relationship. Okay, well, we'll focus on you for a little bit, and then now we're going to focus. No, it's just the natural flow of every time I help somebody learn a different way to look at what they're going through and to approach what it is that they're passionate about. I'm discovering things about myself too, because I'm learning, okay, this is a different situation that I've seen 57 times, very similar, but I've never seen this specific one.
Right.
And so I gain one more bit of perspective myself. And there are thoughts and ideas that come to me from those conversations that I may never been exposed to before. Through the course of gathering all of that information and all the different people that I work with, I go, wow, I am learning so much about what I can do in a better way, because I need to understand what I'm delivering has to be understandable in a way that makes sense to them. And it helps me differentiate, okay, I think this person is going to respond better to these types of questions, and that makes me better at what I'm doing. And there are times people share things with me, and I'm kind of speechless for a split second, and I pause. So when is a good time to pause? Instead of just blurting something out, I take this seriously. Like,
Sure.
This could be someone's livelihood at stake if I unintentionally guide them the wrong way because
Or
I'm too
a
hasty.
pivotal point, in their direction. Maybe right or left dictates whether they succeed or not.
And yeah, that can be daunting.
One thing I wanted to touch on earlier was, getting into. It's raining like crazy, so I can hear it like crazy in here. I'll be okay. But I'm sure you have plenty of experience in this area.
Sure.
But like where you've got somebody who's got a passion and they don't know the business part of the passion, right? We talked about it earlier, and I think we've talked about it before. Like, there's so many people who focus on, let's say, there's a lot of people from back home that love Texas country and they play guitar and they play music and they pursue that goal. And it's like that's where their 20 years of experience is honing this craft. But at a certain point, you become the tour manager, the business manager, the guy who does the, Chuck Briseño, the guy, I can't use his number. He's from George West.
Chuck, yeah.
Chuck does everything,
He does, yeah.
He and it's kind of like, I feel like a lot of times people want to pursue a passion and they don't have the foresight to see everything that goes in that. All of a sudden, your thing that you love doing is now 10% of everything you're doing now. And it's like,
Can be.
Is there a time where you kind of have to talk people through that, explain that to them? And is there a time where have you ever had to be honest with somebody and say, hey, you're just gonna have a good time playing on the back porch because you don't have the drive to do this other portion, to pursue that the industry? Or
I didn't start being really honest until about maybe
20 minutes ago.
Man, what's the no. I would say, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, right? Because we were always trying to be politically correct, right? But now, and I've probably said this to Nigel before, I said, if you want to be my friend, I don't want you to tell me what I want to hear. I want you to tell me what I need to hear. I don't need a fair-weathered friend. I don't need any more of those. I have plenty of fair-weathered friends. And I was a fair-weathered friend for a long time. Great. I mean, now it's like, hey, if you want to be local, do this. But if you want to be taken serious, you need to do it this way. So I've had to have those conversations with those people. But I feel that they respect you more for being really honest, because you're not telling them that they're not good. You're just telling them, like, if you want to be taken serious, this is the road you have to take. This is how you conduct yourself. This is how you do business as a business professional in the music industry, right? But I've had to have the other conversation where, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, that's not what we do. We don't do that. Almost like talking to a child, right? Like, we don't touch the fire. We don't. Let's use our inside voice You know, we're not using outside voice here. Let's use inside voice. And so we've had to have those conversations. But I feel like, you know, sometimes you do have to have that tough love, a little bit of tough. My mom was a tough love mom. So I respond better to that. I even think I mentioned it to you, like, I need you to be really, really on. Am I messing up? Am I doing it right? Not everybody responds well to that. So, yeah, we had those conversations, yeah.
It's funny because Sonny was pissing me off a couple of years ago. I redid the intro. And it was like 25 seconds long. And I sent it to him. He'd be like, it's too long. Make it shorter. And like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, he made a mistake to ask me, what do you think? Are you sure you want to know?
Well, it's crazy because like I was doing it on an iPad. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just playing and things were working out. And I was like, oh, it's 25 seconds. That's not bad. And I sent it to Sonny. He's like, too long. And so 19 seconds. Send it back to Sonny. It's too long. I think I got it down to 9. So I think it's at 9 seconds now, which, and in hindsight, I go, oh, that's pretty good. Like, I'll tell Sonny that was the dumbest thing I ever did listening to him. But when Sonny's not around, I'm like, that's pretty smart. But it's funny because, like, he says that. I've got about 5 guys that I don't ask them their opinion unless I really want it. And, like, there's things where, like, even after I got it down to 9 seconds, I sent it to the 5 guys. And they're the guys that are going to tell me, dude, that sucks. You know, and they'll mean it, right? They're not going to go, I like it. They're going to go, it sounds weird, or it sounds like this, or it's too long. And it's funny because, like, I don't go to them for a lot of things because I like being happy, right?
Don't rain on my parade.
If I go to these 5, I'm like, But there's times where it's like, I feel very thankful that I have them because when I gotta know, I'll ask one of these 5 or I'll ask all 5. You know, I ask them the same question. I don't ever put them in a group text because I don't want them. Because at some point they'll go, all right, let's screw with Gabe. You know, so you got to keep them separate. But that's very important to have that honesty.
It really is.
And to have somebody to say, hey, man, you're blowing it right now. You know, I think that's probably the best thing somebody can have in their corner is somebody's going to tell you when you're blowing it.
And we all really need that. And you said it much better than I did when you asked the question about how does somebody know whether this is always meant to be a hobby or it is actually a viable business opportunity. And it's that type of perspective from somebody that knows the difference between the two, probably because they've already done it. And they're not afraid to tell you. And that's where going outside of, you know, more of our day-to-day friendships and family and that sort of thing. Because, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but unintentionally, we set people up for failure because we're so worried about their feelings. And it's not that we have to be mean. And I grew up very similar. My mom, I told you, she raised me as a single mom and she was a cop. So she didn't mince words. She loved me. I was her baby boy, her pride and joy. So I was mama's boy, no doubt. But she would snatch me up in a heartbeat and tell me when I was screwing up. And when in those moments, she did not mess around. She'd use German words a lot of times. We didn't speak German, but she spoke some German, and for whatever reason, she just really liked it. And she'd be like,
"You know what? I got the same problem with my parents in Spanish. Never taught us Spanish. I never taught us."
But she'd be like, "Dummkopf." Basically, dumbass.
Oh, is that what that means?
I knew that one.
and I was like, wow, my mom's calling me a dumbass. But it was great because even though she cared deeply about my feelings, she cared more about lying to me or misleading me and then watching me fail long term. She would rather have my feelings hurt short term, knowing that there was no irreparable damage done, because she realized that at some point in time, I needed to have the right perspective and drive to truly be successful. And that wouldn't come from constantly being told everything I did was amazing and it's great and you're doing all these wonderful things. And so she would snatch me up regularly. And like she was constantly telling me stuff I was screwing up.
Love her.
But
love that
it.
lady.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And God rest her soul. I mean, she did such amazing things to And still daily, she's with me in that way
Yeah.
because I realize that, it's not really my job to manage how you feel about the truth. If you ask my opinion about something, I'm not going to be like, oh, you're so screwed up and you're an idiot and so on and so forth. But I'm going to be like, no, I don't think that is the best approach for this. I think that is going to fail, and here's why. And I think here are some things that can be done to avoid what I think will happen if you go that route. I think you should consider taking, one of these other approaches, which one matches the best, rather than just following this because, like, I can tell you're enthusiastic about it and I don't want to hurt your feelings. Because I'd rather see you be successful and thank me for being raw and direct and to the point when you are successful and go, man, I can see it now. Thank God you didn't lie to me. I'm so grateful that you just told me the truth.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Zeddy. You know what's funny is that as I've gotten older, I've had to learn to adjust myself. I have to learn to adjust my approach to people, and it's funny because like I've gotten to the point where like I almost have to do it for myself because I grew up complete opposite somewhat. My parents, my mom was super loving. My dad was the disciplinarian. My siblings and friends, we crapped on each other all the time. And it was at a cariño, right? It was at a love. Mm-hmm. We loved each other and we knew it. But they never allowed you to feel good about yourself. We would always amplify the negative, right? Mm-hmm. The positive, we'd be like, whatever. We'd always amplify the negative. So as I got older, it got to the point where if you failed, you caught hell, right? Mm-hmm. If you did well, nobody praised you. And so as I grew up, it was almost like I hated failing more than I enjoyed succeeding. Because I knew if I failed, I'm gonna catch hell from everybody. And as I've gotten older, I have conversations with my siblings and other friends, and everybody changes, right? You get older, you change. And but I find myself, and I had a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day. We love, especially in the Mexican culture, we love to criticize. We love it, but to me, now that I've gotten older and I'm a little different. If you're going to criticize something or you're going to try and redirect somebody, you've got to follow up with a plan of how to do it better, or at least just some advice, right? And a lot of times when I talk to my younger nephews, because they're not like we were, they're soft, man. And so, but it's kind of like sometimes I'll talk to them, but they're very cerebral, they're very smart, they're a lot more intelligent than we were at their age. So a lot of times the approach is, hey, I know that you're looking at this problem this way, but what about if you look at it these other two ways? What makes more sense to you? And a lot of times I approach it that way. Even though I want them to go to plan C, I want that thought process to happen, because I feel like, especially in the younger people, that thought process isn't there. They're so used to being told, hey, drink this, eat this, go here, do that. And they're so involved with the technology. They're better at the technology, but they're not better at the problem solving, Exactly. And so kind of getting into what we talked about earlier, I feel like technology is coming in a lot more into people's work environment, And so I had a conversation with a buddy of mine just earlier, and I was kind of like, thank God we'll be gone by the time this stuff happens, But, even with somebody trying to pursue a goal, let's say there's a young person that says, hey, I've got an idea and I want to pursue this thing. I don't feel like there's any way to bulletproof those careers. And you almost have to stay fluid in your ideas and your pursuits, because I feel like technology, when we were younger, it was kind of like, hey, go into programming, learn how to work computers are the future. And now I feel like the new technology that's coming down the road doesn't need us at all, And it's kind of like, if you want to be somebody that pursues goals and starts careers, or even becoming an artist, like AI makes music now, or they make pictures, or they make promotional ads. And it's like, that's super scary to me, because it's like, okay, well, what do you tell a younger person when they're fresh when we were younger in a small town, you go do what your dad did. You know, you go work at the refinery, you go work at the prison, you become a musician, right? And it's like now, in the next generation, I don't see them having that option, you know?
It's interesting. Those types of thoughts and questions really make my brain do somersaults.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of uncertainty. And what I've seen happen over the course of life, and I think you guys have seen this too, tell me what you think, but we've seen instances like this before, maybe not to the same degree or magnitude, right, as AI and what we're seeing in the current day and age. But there's always been that thing of each generation, and oftentimes it's been musically related, right? Oh my gosh, the Beatles, they're going to turn everybody into, you know, whatever people thought. And they just thought it was the end of civilization.
We're going to be staring at guys' crotches on their record albums.
Exactly, I know. Who would do such a thing?
I knew it was gonna come up.
There it is. But you know, it's there's always been things like that we fear the most because it's new, it's different. We haven't navigated it. We don't know what's on the other side, and so I think there's a natural fear of it. What I think happens is there's a balance point where it does sometimes go a little bit too far. And we've seen that in history where there are aspects of cultural change that go a little bit too far. But what I think is always going to happen is there's a natural balancing factor that comes about. And we kind of pendulum swings both ways. And eventually we start to reach equilibrium. In some cases, it just goes away altogether very abruptly. And one of those things was we were terrified. You guys remember Y2K?
Yes.
Nobody even thinks about that. Here we are, 26 years later, and it's like, what was that? But
I still have MREs from Y2K.
Yeah, I bet those are tasty.
Oh my god,
all bloated and swollen.
Oh my god,
got some rotten mush in there.
You bought a generator and everything, right? Oh my god,
it won't turn on, but I got it.
But we all feared that so bad, and that wasn't really a cultural thing, but it was computer related. And it was fear of what would happen if there were this universal widespread glitch. What will we do? Well, we'll probably figure it out. I mean, we're not just going to sit here and, none of the computers work anymore. We probably would have figured something out. And because of that fear, some people did figure out, okay, here's how we go in and fix this. And yes, there were some mild outages and everything, but at the end of the day, we prevailed. And it was because of the humans that remained in the loop, not because a computer fixed it. With AI, we're in a different realm.
And robotics, they go along with that too.
Exactly. But we still got to do all those things.
I LinkedIn stalked you, and I saw you had worked for Amazon. And I don't know if y'all saw it, but I saw a video the other day, and they had a robot who sorted packages for 250 hours nonstop. And, you know, when you see that, and granted, it was one robot trial or whatever, but when you see that, it's like, okay, well, why would I hire, you know, some old fat guy who has back pain and needs a lunch break, you know, or a woman who might end up having to go on maternity leave. You know, it's kind of like if we can implement these, and money talks, right?
It does.
You know, when it's so crazy to me because I always hear about profit margins. And it's interesting because every year those profit margins have to go up for the stockholders. And it's like, how can something increasingly increase as far as like percentage points without having a limit? And it's like, okay, well, what do you do then? Well, then now we go build these robots that can work 250 hours nonstop, and we don't have to pay anybody, and they don't have to take a lunch break. And, you know, so that kind of thing scares me. But I will say this, and I this is going to go away at some point. I feel it. But as of right now, and every time, even during Y2K and some of the other things that have happened, I always tell myself, there's always going to be that guy with the denim Metallica jacket who smokes cigarettes behind the dumpster. You know, there's always going to be that guy who wants to hear that combustion engine make noise and blow smoke and burn gasoline. And I think as long as we can maintain that as a population, as humanity, you're always going to have somebody pushing back against the most efficient next thing, you know? And when you look at like electronic cars, how long they've been trying to come out with that, Tesla's done it a little bit better, but you still got that guy in the shop that wants to do a burnout. He wants to smell that stuff. And so that kind of gives me a little bit of like, maybe there's some hope. But man, I tell you what, maybe I'm just in a weird algorithm, but you see more and more of that. I think UFC caught heat from people the other day because they used their first promotional thing that was made with AI. And it was the first time they hadn't used an artist. And, the UFC, and you know what? It's coming, right? We're not stopping it, I talked to a buddy the other day. I was talking about my father-in-law being older and needing help. And he said, dude, by the time we need that, there's going to be robots in our house, picking us up and helping make our bed. And I sit there and go, it sounds, fantastical. But at the same time, it's like, then you watch these videos and you go, man, there's not much they can't do if they wanted to send AI in that direction. So
fair. Yeah.
It's a little bit scary to me, but.
No, I think it is too. And although I think AI can do a lot of things, so I'm typically an early adopter with things. And by that, I mean, something new comes out, I'm fascinated by, what is this? I'm just curious naturally. When AI came out, I go, I'm not sure I'm ready for this yet. I want to see where it's going to go because I was concerned about a variety of things that aren't super material in the moment, but I just had concerns about how it would be used and what it might be able to do once unleashed. And so I go, let me sit back. I'm going to wait and let all of this kind of run its course. Now I'm at a place where I feel comfortable dabbling a little bit. And the ways that I use it in very limited fashion is if I've got a large amount of information that I want to do a quick comparison where I'm not going to base a major decision off of the information it shows me in comparison, but it's going to help me understand the totality of this way faster without doing all the research and reading book after book and doing a ton of, hours of research on the internet or something. I am happy that it's going to give me that information neat and tidy in a very short period of time, maybe a minute, and it can tell me an answer. Now, what I always ask it to do, though, is show me what the references are. Show me the credible source that told it, this is better than this, and here's why. These facts. Where did those facts come from? Because I also know that it will hallucinate. It'll just draw information from social media, and it takes a volume of commentary and believes it as truth. Well, when I see like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or something like that, I go, okay, I don't believe this is credible. This is what people are saying and believing about this. That doesn't mean it's fact. So if you can't prove to me that it's fact, then now I go, okay, there's not enough information here to go by, and I'm going to have to do this a little bit more manually or, old school. I think it can be helpful in some of those ways, and so I do use it in limited fashion, but I think most of us recognize AI-generated videos for the most part, AI-generated photographs, AI-generated music.
Hey, some of it's really good. I'm sorry.
It is. No, it really is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Here's the thing that I think all of the things that AI does, though, they're always still missing just that littlest human element. And I think we sense that, whether we know it, like, it's that thing that is not quite human. We just know where there's just something about it, and we want it to be human created. And, we go back in history, and especially with music, there was that whole thing, video killed the radio star.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Did it, though?
It did not.
It didn't.
No,
it was just a whole
reality
different...
TV killed MTV, though.
Oh, it did, right? Yeah. God rest MTV, right? I remember the first day MTV was on, too, by the way, which that blows my mind that we've seen, this whole life cycle occur. But I think when I reflect on music specifically, we saw that whole progression of video and how that came about and what became more important. We have seen significant changes in the music industry, and I can't remember when this came out, but it's been within the last 10 years, and it was basically a graph showing the progression of music and the different sounds and how the amplitude of the sounds has all started to narrow into the same box over time. So no matter what the genre is, no matter who the artist is, the record labels that are doing all of the recording and marketing and selling of the music, they need it to fit within certain parameters. And so no matter whether it's country or rap, there's just a certain range that's pleasing enough to be on the radio that isn't wildly all over the place and hurting your ears and you're having to adjust the volume, where it's turned into just kind of this cookie cutter box over time. So that is kind of a negative. But we also look at, what are kids doing these days? They got turntables. You go into Walmart and there's turntables again, and there's vinyl all over the place again. That's cool. And we thought that was dead forever. But what's old is new again. And here's something like, I couldn't wait till I got my first cassette player, man. That was like revolutionary, because now I don't need, this vinyl record that can get broken and warped and scratched and everything. And man, I got these cassettes and I got my little Walkman I can put in my pocket. But now here we are.
Hey, did you get the yellow one?
Yes. You had to have the yellow one. I mean, come on. Like that thing, that was baller.
A yellow one?
Oh, yeah.
A yellow one?
That was the hot one.
Oh, man.
Oh, I never got a yellow. I barely got a Walkman, period.
You were poor, son.
I was poor. I was poor.
Well, I didn't tell you.
My
I didn't get
godmother got
mine
me
until
mine.
I was like 25 and had my first house. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'm joking. I was poor too. All my friends had it. I didn't have one. I had the black Panasonic.
There you go. Yeah, the knockoff. But yeah, man. So I think, when we take a look at AI, while it is scary, and the things that scare me about it are those non-human elements, but I think when we look at what it would take for it to replace all of us in all ways, like, who's going to manufacture the robot? Is it another robot that's manufacturing the robot?
Maybe.
And maybe it is.
Well, it's funny because I've had this conversation multiple times with people, and I tell them, we grew up without that stuff. We can call BS when we see it. Yeah. But my nephew, who's 12, when he's 30 and all he's known is what AI has told him, like, he's not going to be able to call BS when he hears it or sees it, because he didn't have that life experience that we do before it came. So, and I guess one thing that when I think about it, and AI is not terrible. I would imagine like a small mom and pop organization or something, or even a new artist, right? They want to do some digital art, right? They just want to do it on their own because they're doing everything and they're a start out. Maybe it helps the cupcake lady, or the chicken egg seller scale a little bit. But I guess at a certain point, this is where me in love with nostalgia is. As a business owner, I would hope there'd be a point where you can recognize when AI is no longer allowing your product to be authentic. And now it's taking you out of what you're creating. And I think, for me, we talked about the ice cream place over here. Like, when it's authentic, when it's rare, when it's something that you can't get everywhere, like, that's value to me. That's high end to me. When you can get something that's mass produced, I don't want it anymore.
Same.
I want the thing that somebody spent time making or baking or building or writing a song, or this song has to do with growing up in a small town and with my parents, and these are our experiences, and Sonny can put it in a way that it resonates with everybody who has that similar life, and it's like, that's what I hope we don't lose with AI. But
yeah, no, I'm with you, man, and I think there's always going to be a demand for folks like Sonny.
I agree. I don't think it goes. It's like it goes in cycles. Like, who would have ever thought that vinyl would come back? And I forgot what year. Not too many years ago, vinyl outsold streaming or CD sales.
Really?
Yes. So it's a big movement. Vinyl is a big thing. Even now, as an artist, like, it's kind of cool that you can do graphics with AI, but I can see an AI graphic when I see it. I'm like, oh, it kind of all looks the same.
When you see the sixth finger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, I can just tell.
That's weird.
I can just tell when I can see AI. I can just tell. I'm like, oh, that's not authentic, because they all start looking the same, or all the songs kind of sound the same. It's kind of the same AI voice, and so people will start like, oh, it's too much. Like, it was cool, it was novelty, it was too much. And I think that once you learn how to prompt AI the right way, like learning a new prompt, like we call her Chatty G. Like Chatty G, my son calls her Chatty G. Chatty G agrees with you most of the time. She's very biased, or he, or whatever. But you have to prompt it to be, you have to prompt it, say, be honest with me, don't agree with everything I say, challenge me, challenge my thoughts. So it's all about, learning, prompting it the correct way. But everybody is really, right now, they're saying people that don't adopt AI are going to fall behind.
And that's true. I agree.
If you don't adopt it, because they're still going to need people to prompt it either way. Yeah. Like, AI can't prompt itself unless you start getting into workflows. But I don't even know. Like, you start getting into workflows. Like, I have a friend who designs workflows, but I think you still need somebody to prompt the workflow to get started.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's always going to be a need for that human touch, that human element. I don't think that it's going to be completely go away, honestly.
All I know is when Tesla comes out with a robot that dry humps an accordion, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
We're done.
Oh my God!
I don't even know what kind of world that is.
I thought you were going to say, "Come on, man, he's gonna be something good." I was like, "Oh wow!"
Nigel, tell everybody what you got coming up and how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Y'all got an event coming up, right? Or was that an old one that I saw on Facebook?
No. So there's some cool stuff coming up. I do a lot of work in the community because really my passion is helping people. So it's not so much about the money that is made; it's more about the outcome. And I think we were talking about that.
Nigel. Money's nice.
It is, and I don't work for free, right? There are volunteer things.
Sonny's gonna walk out.
This is a nice place, yeah. Thank you, money.
And, volunteer things that I love doing because I think there's a time and a place to give freely, but there's also a time where we all deserve to be paid for those things of value that we can deliver. So I've got a workshop coming up. It's a cohort. It'll last several months, and it's in partnership with a nonprofit over in Bernie. It's called Das Greenhouse, and it's called the Cultivating Success.
That means
cohort.
the greenhouse.
Yeah.
Since you don't know German.
In Deutsch.
Oh, is that what it means? I had no idea. I was like, what?
Okay, he lives in New Braunfels.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's really cool, and that's going to kick off next week. And so we just finished receiving all the applications, and we had some great funders that are sponsoring this so that we can make it deliverable to businesses that may not be in a place where they could afford what my services might go for one-on-one and for that length of time, but hopefully they'll be able to see, some very meaningful change. So that Cultivating Success workshop kicks off on June 1st. And then I've also got a smaller workshop that I'm partnering with some folks that do other types of things in business, things like benefits packages, financial officer, bookkeeping type of roles. And really it's meant to educate people in business about how they need to start with their exit strategy in mind. You always need to look at where you want to end up so that you can build everything along the way. So,
what's funny is you say that, and I don't want to put people's information out there, so it'll be kind of broad, but I've talked to friends of mine who've talked about the exit. Mm-hmm. And it's not as easy as you think when it's a very successful business. And in one case, the exit is difficult for them because the company's valued at several $1 million, right? And it's like, well, you don't want to lose that value of the company, but at the same time, you don't want to put your children in debt from them buying it from you, And so retirement hasn't happened yet. It's taken longer than what they expected, and it's so crazy because we're so focused on the future and the now and maybe the past, but we don't think about the end, right? And I mean, I think we're all guilty of that. You're so focused on next month or this quarter, and then all of a sudden you get to the end, and it's like if you were successful, well, now what? You know, it's so funny to think about that. Think about it that way. It's like, what's my exit plan? You know, and how can I maintain staff, or how can I keep? Because that's what you're doing, right? When you're successful, you're providing a living for other people.
A lot of people relying on you.
They rely on you, and you can't just drop it, or you can't devalue it. But what do you do with it? So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be really neat. And I'm grateful to have so many cool people that I get to stand alongside and share value in the community through those efforts. And, you know, some folks in particular that I'd like to mention, because although we started doing business together through my company, and then I started working for them full time in addition to the work that I continue to do through my company, because they realize how important that work is. The great folks at Health 210. So there's a group of doctors, privately owned primary care practice, and really they were my first major client. And then they said, hey, this is going so well, we want you to help lead, you know, this longer term plan that we have in mind for growth of our business. And so we went from doing work together on limited projects to they said, hey, we really want this full time. Keep doing all that other stuff too. But it resulted in this really interesting mix of me going to work for someone full-time employed again, while maintaining this business and all of these additional projects in balance, you know. And so that is something that just demonstrates how universal all of this approach can be. Everything from the Marine Corps to work in the government, Amazon, nonprofit, and now something I've never been involved with in my entire life. I have no healthcare background. And the things that I've been doing in partnership with those great doctors has been amazing. So I'm grateful that not only did they believe in me and trust me with their business, helping grow it, but also trusted me that I could maintain these other projects and still continue to deliver that same benefit to others in limited fashion. So those that are interested in learning more about that can absolutely find me on LinkedIn, as you mentioned, Gabe. And that's really probably the best place, because I've been kind of a black sheep in the sense that I don't have a website. And people are like, man, how do you have a business without a website? And I'm like, that's just one of those many things that I didn't follow the standard route. And I have a lot of reasons for that. But yet here I am, succeeding quite nicely in what I set out to do, which was truly deliver that value with certain goals and objectives in mind. So really grateful that I got to be here and make
Absolutely.
yet another new friend,
Yeah.
and spend time with a great friend. And
Well, so much for being retired, sir.
I know.
So much for being
I
retired.
know. That was a funny joke that I made when I said I was going to be retired.
I know that was like retired. What?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what. I hope you're extremely successful, because I think a byproduct of everything that you're doing is improving the community and the places around you. You know, when people can pursue their goal and be successful because they have the right mentorship and guidance, like, it only benefits the community. You
It
know,
does.
and at the end of the day, that's a huge payoff, man. So
It
I'm
is.
excited.
Well, it's the best purpose for me, that's for sure. And I'm grateful to be blessed to be able to do it every day. And man, thank you for having us
man.
be guests. And
Well, I appreciate
can't wait
Sonny
till the next
introducing
time.
me. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right. Anytime. I'm just waiting for my check to come in from all that great business he's doing.
Hey,
The royalties. I
Playing
forgot to
with
tell you
my
about that
royalties,
part.
buddy. Where's my cut?
pay him in Bill Miller's brisket, because he ate all mine last time.
I did. No. I'm glad to see he's doing great, and this is just the beginning. The good thing is, like he said, he's retired, and he can do it at his own pace. Right? There's no sense of urgency. I think that's probably the best thing.
It is.
That there's not. Like,
It really is.
You don't have to have that. Like, oh, I got to get a client because I need to make this much money. You know, he's selling his eggs, and that's good enough. That's good enough. Selling eggs, and so that's great to see. I'm excited. I'm excited for Nigel because I just see so much before. You know, I just have these visions. I don't know how to explain it. It's just this sense I have always with people. As you were talking earlier, I don't know why I saw you on TV. all of a sudden I saw you on TV somewhere. I don't know why.
Was I alive or dead?
You were alive. You were
Okay,
alive.
great.
You were still
Oh,
alive.
yeah. That is a good.
I don't know if it was an AIU or UU.
It was probably a UU because I'm trying to do something different. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
I can't wait to hear about this.
It probably.
You see?
Well, more for next time. See, we have to schedule a follow up now.
Well,
I got to know.
it'll
We're going to
probably-
be interviewing you about
More
this.
than likely, I'll still be doing what I'm doing today. 20 years
Excellent.
from now. So,
Awesome.
fellas, I
Awesome.
appreciate you.
right.
Nigel, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Sonny,
Thank you.
I always appreciate you coming out,
Yes,
man.
sir.
It's
Thank
always
you.
fun. Thank you, fellas.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina podcast.
Yo, Barry.